Hello, Mr. Forbes. Today I'm going to present to you my chapter related to access. So today I'm going to present to you what access provide me, uh, what access provide to me for my company. So first, here's a data table that was created with access. So this data table is used to present the different orders that I had last week or during the last month. So for the purpose um, of this presentation, I'm only going to present to you the first 30 orders that I had. So the data present the order ID, order date, the ship mode, the customer ID, the customer's name, the segment, the country, the city, the state, the postal code, the region, the product ID, the product name, the sales, and the quantity ordered for each bike. So um, next, using this table and two other table, I created the queries. So the first queries is called the sales by vendor query. So I made a link between the sales agents and customer's order. So that way I could present a more consent and concrete version of the order ID, the order date, the customer ID, the customer's name, the segment, the region, the product name, and the sales related to that order. So as you can see right there, I put the like or the like or criteria. So I wanted to have the only orders that came from the west or the east of the United States. So by putting this type of criteria, I managed to have this type of information afterwards. For the second query, well, I uh, I created a query which is a bit similar to the first one, but this time this query is presents uh, way more precise information related to the customer to the customer's information. So we can see their ID, their name, their country, their city, their state, their postal code, their region, and their sales. So and like the other query, which is a bit blurred out, and like the other query, I put a criteria uh, on whether or not I wanted to have uh, a certain type of state that I wanted to show in priority. So for example, I wanted to have the customers who are only related to Florida or California, where there I have it. I now have I can now have their computer informations and simple informations without going deep deep detail informations about them. So this makes our data about our customers really easier to manage at the end of the day. So the first form that I created for with Access is the vendor and their sales. So this form is used to present the vendors. So the salesperson, if we can call them that way. So we can have so this form presents the salesperson's ID, their first name, their availabilities, their last name, the region that they are covering, and last but not least their picture, so that inside of our system we can have a clear picture of what they look like, and not only a name and an ID in front of us to classify them. So as you can see, for the four different for the four main sellers that we have in the United States, these reports were created. And in addition to this form, my bad, sorry. So and in addition to this form, I created a sub form as well that shows how much bike did they sell, and the amount they sell them for, and the different models they sell them from. They sell they sold them for. So well, related to each salesperson, we can have the order ID, the order date, customer's ID, customer's name, segment, the region, the product name, and the sales they made during that last month or week. So as you can see, we can clearly see that Anna did way more sales than Chuck, and that Cassandra and Kelly uh, had the similar at a similar amount of sales during the last month or week. So that way we can really take a step back and see which salespersons were the most effective during the last period of recording of the recording sales. So the second form that I created for Ready Access is the customers info and total money spent form. So for each customer, we can now see the information like mentioned below, such as the customer ID, their name, their country, their city, their state, their postal code, and their region. But in addition to that, we can also see the sales that we made to them. So the total, the total sum of sales that we made to them. So for example, for Alejandro, we only made a sale of $4,000 this month. But for people such as Zujus, we made a sales of about 16,000 this month, which is pretty good. Or even seeing we are about to hit the 12,000 mark for this month. So this report, this form classify the different sales we made for each person, and that way we can take a step back as well and to see which person spent the most money into our company while using our website online when trying to find bikes for them for the next season or approximately the next year. In addition to that, we can also see that with Access, I managed to create little buttons that helps me and the management travel between the different forms. So we can go to the next form, to the previous one, and if we need to, we can now add or delete the present forms that are situated in that type of form. The third thing that Manage helped me with is to create reports. So the first report is the customers list and their purchases. So a bit similar to what the form or query above presented to us. This report really states how the quantity of each bike the customer bought. So for example, Damon bought one screw, Scene one screw as well. But you can see that Scene not only bought one screw, but he also bought two steel for $8,000 for each. So that way we can see how many which model were popular for each customers. So of course I included the title. I also included in the details a customer ID, the customer's name, the city they come from, the postal code, and the product ID they bought. And in addition to that, I created a sub report that stated the order date, the product ID, the product name, and the sales, which makes a pretty concrete table of information without being too complex to the eyes of the management team. So last but not least, the final report that Access helped me to create is the total sales per client report. So for each client, as much as showing the little the pretty minimum information about them, such as their ID, the date that they ordered, and the name of the product that they ordered. and of course the customer's name. We can now see that for each not for each model of bike, we can see the amount that they put it for each model of bike that they chose. So for example, we can see that Brosina bought for 60,000 of only screw model bikes, and 16,000 for only steel model bike for the steel model, and 11,000 for the Slayer model. This is one of the, well, I think it's the best customer that we had yet during the last month. So that way you can see how much money she put for every type of model that she bought. By creating that report, I divided the report into 4 different sections. So the customers for the page header, we have the customer ID, order date, customer's name, product ID, and product name, plus the sales title. Then we have already the concrete information about the customer's ID, the customer's name. Then we have the sales total of their purchases, and each purchases that they did during the last month. So that way we can see at the end of the year, we can take a step back and see which model were the most popular, because I arranged the format so that this crew model, which is the cheapest one, is always at the beginning, and that the Slayer, which is the most expensive one, is always at the end of the list. So if we can, as you can see, Pit Crease only bought one Slayer, but it didn't bought a steel or a screw like Ken Black did. So that way we can really divide each client and make their future and present new bikes that they can that can fill out their need in their future. Thank you.